Everyone talks about anime filler, adding scenes that were never in the manga, but almost nobody talks about the other side of that, the scenes that were in the manga and never made it into the anime. Dragon Ball Z overall is a pretty faithful adaptation, but that doesn't mean some things didn't slip through the cracks. Zarbon warning Vegeta that Frieza can transform. Gone. 2 entire chapters of the Buu arc. Never animated. I'm not talking about censorship here, but scenes that are entirely changed or straight up missing. You may think you've seen everything Dragon Ball has to offer, but the scenes that did get removed are fascinating. So today, we're looking at some of the best manga moments that never made it to the screen. In chapter 19 of the manga, during the first arc of the series, we find our heroes captured by the Pilaf gang. While watching them, Pilaf says that they don't seem to have the Dragon Balls, only for Mai to make a joke that the man seems to have a pear between his legs. This is in the anime too, but the manga continues the joke by having Pilaf scold her, and Mai holding up poop on a stick. Pilaf says that they're gonna get in trouble because Toriyama has tried to keep the manga's humor refined, and that they can't just bring back Dr. Slump jokes like that anymore, especially now that Shonen Jump is more popular than ever. Then you turn the page and Yamcha makes a lame joke, and everyone looks at him like he's crazy. Poor guy was really taking L's from the start. The anime stops the scene after Mai makes the joke, and actually makes Yamcha a little bit cooler by having him trying to escape. This wasn't the only change with Mai and Pilaf, since in chapter 18, a scene with them driving back after stealing the Dragon Balls is changed to be a little less goofy by having them on a plane instead. I should also mention that the iconic scene of Goku getting hit by Bulma's car isn't actually in the manga. Bulma stops right before hitting him, so I guess they just wanted to make Bulma an even worse driver. Dragon Ball would keep changing scenes like this as the series evolved, and some of the most interesting omissions happened not just to jokes, but in the middle of fights. One of the weirdest omissions is a whole part of the final fight in the 21st World Tournament. While Jackie Chun uses the drunken fist on Goku, he mocks his student. Since Goku's never been drunk, he doesn't know how to counter it nor copy it. In response, Goku takes inspiration from the wild animals he grew up around and uses the Mad Dog Fist. So we get to see Goku having an edge he usually never shows, as he savagely attacks Jackie and kicks him into the wall just like he did to him. The anime completely skips this section of the fight to jump straight into the crazy monkey fist attack from the next chapter instead. Maybe they skipped it since it's a pretty similar idea, or they didn't want Goku looking so scary. And for anyone who says Goku never invents his own moves, yeah, okay buddy, read the manga. After the tournament, there's some small changes to how scenes play out. In the manga, the goodbye takes place at night, and we never see them inside a car in the anime, where Roshi tells Goku that he's taught him everything he can. The conversation does happen, but in broad daylight, outside of the car. The weirdest change was that Yamcha offers to give Roshi a ride, and he accepts, but he rejects it in the anime, for whatever reason. The reason was to make filler of Roshi perving on girls. Though in both, the car breaks down. In the anime, it breaks down in the desert. In the manga, in a city, so I guess the manga characters have a little bit more luck. This next one is interesting because it's less about what happens and more about how Toriyama presents it. Imagine you're a Japanese kid reading Dragon Ball for the first time. As you flip through the pages of Shonen Jump, instead of being met with Dragon Ball, you're suddenly in Penguin Village. Rayleigh, Senbei, and the rest of the Dr. Slump cast coming home from school for summer vacation. It's a cool meta surprise. Like, wait, did I just open the wrong series? It isn't until halfway through the chapter that you see Goku chasing General Blue in the sky and realize, oh, this is Dragon Ball. That's how the Dr. Slump crossover opens up in the manga. In the anime's episode 55, the story plays out like normal Dragon Ball until around 18 minutes in, when Blue and Goku fly through a weird color portal thing? I don't know what's going on here. I think that's the implication. Suddenly, we cut to Rayleigh running around with the Gachans away from everyone, while her friends, who were in the manga with her, are at the coffee pot instead, having a similar conversation. Because of the changes, we miss out on cameos like Taro or Tsun's parents, but the anime makes up for it by stretching the crossover into 3 full episodes, with larger scenes for the cast. It trades the manga surprise for a bigger, longer crossover event. A scene that gets changed, partially to make room for filler, is the Ultra Divine Water. In the anime, Koren can't just hand Goku the water. Instead, he has to go through a whole side quest with Yajirobe, overcoming trials to reach it. And when he finally drinks it, he only has to withstand the pain for a minute or so. In the manga, it's much more direct. Koren immediately gives him the water at the tower, and instead of a side quest and quick endurance moment, Goku stays up screaming in pain all night until morning. So, although the events are similar, the actual moment of Goku getting the water from Koren and Goku screaming in pain until morning isn't adapted. Honestly, I do like that the anime makes Goku work for it a little more. The extra trials make the power-up feel more earned, but the manga version paints a much more brutal picture of what that moment actually cost him, even if it's just a few panels. Another scene that went unadapted to accommodate for filler is what happens during the lead-up to the final battle against King Piccolo. In the anime, as Tien is defeated, he tries to use the Mafuba against King Piccolo, only to hit Drum instead, giving Piccolo the chance to destroy the rice cooker. This is kind of a big deal, since Tenshinhan's been training this whole time to use that technique. In the manga, this is completely different, and the scene that goes unadapted is when Tien first arrives at the king's castle, as he notices that the rice cooker is already being cracked and unusable for the technique. He'd broken it during training, and now he has no choice but to fight without it. It's a bit anticlimactic, so I do appreciate that the anime actually has Tien use the move, or attempt to. In the anime, the rice cooker is safely stored in a capsule until it's used. There are a few other things that aren't shown in the anime, like Master Roshi mentioning that Giran was killed by King Piccolo and his forces. And speaking of Roshi, a tiny shot that goes unadapted is from the ending of the 23rd World Tournament, as Master Roshi breaks the fourth wall to tell us that the manga isn't over yet. The anime replaces this with the exact opposite, as Roshi actually wonders if it's all over. The fourth wall break is instead given to Uranai Baba a few episodes later, where she winks at the audience after reading Chi-Chi and Goku's future, hinting at Gohan as the anime rebranded into Dragon Ball Z. This one is simple but kind of interesting. During Raditz's confrontation with Goku, when he threatens him and kidnaps Gohan, the manga shows Piccolo watching from around the corner of Kame House. He's already there, listening, clearly perplexed, and trying to figure out what to do. In the anime, Piccolo doesn't appear until Raditz leaves, and instead of rounding the corner, he dramatically descends from the sky to propose teaming up with Goku. It makes sense why the anime changed it. The reveal and the team-up hits a lot harder when Piccolo literally descends like a demon making a deal, rather than just walking in from this side of the house. But it is cool to see that Piccolo is kind of freaking out in the manga. This next one I can't really figure out why they took out. In the anime, when Bulma repairs the scouters at Kame House, she takes off her robe and reads the power levels of Roshi, Krillin, and Turtle, giving us the lowest power level in the series at 0.001. It's mostly just played as a comedy beat, but a whole section from the manga was cut. Instead of reading Turtle's power level, Bulma explains that the scouter can read power levels anywhere in the world, including their location. She demonstrates it by scanning Tenshinhan at 250, Yamcha at 177, and Piccolo at 329. It's a lot more serious than the anime, and Bulma also keeps her robe on. Roshi gets a brief moment where he says that he hopes Piccolo took Gohan as part of a plan to save the world, and admits that even if they wanted to go get him, they just couldn't if Piccolo's power level is really 329. It's weird to have it cut out. It establishes how they track the Z fighters for Kami's training, and the power levels further reinforce how much the Z fighters will grow. Do you remember Zarbon telling Vegeta that Frieza can transform in the anime? Well, you shouldn't, because that scene doesn't exist. This is probably the most famous cut scene from the manga. On Namek, Vegeta mocks Zarbon into showing his monster form, getting completely overwhelmed in their first fight. The anime expands the fight by quite a bit, but by doing so, it actually skips over a very important detail. When the two clash in the sky, Zarbon is supposed to continue mocking Vegeta. Did he really think he was the only one with the ability to transform? He then drops a massive revelation. Frieza can also transform. Zarbon then fires a blast at Vegeta, who dodges it, but the fight quickly ends after that, just like in the anime. The key here is that Vegeta never actually hears the revelation. Maybe the anime staff, since they were pretty neck and neck with the manga during this era, didn't think this would be something to be brought up again. We'd probably just see Frieza do it. But in episode 77, Vegeta randomly says that he does in fact know Frieza can transform, all thanks to Zarbon. So by leaving out this scene, it creates a bit of a plot hole. This is another pretty minor one made to accommodate filler, but it does shift how things feel. In the anime, when everyone is wished to Earth while Goku and Frieza finish their battle, Gohan rushes off to save Bulma and get to Goku's ship. In the anime, not only does he make it there, he drops off Bulma, rushes back, and even attacks Frieza. In the manga, he never makes it back to the ship. He's still flying with Bulma towards it, because Gohan gave most of his energy to Piccolo to stabilize him. Little scenes like Gohan and Bulma being teleported, and their dialogue there, just don't happen the same way that they do in the manga. Similarly, Vegeta actually approaches Goku and Frieza before he's teleported off-world, so that panel of him is completely different from the anime. Changes like this is why the manga version of the fight really does feel like just 5 minutes, while the anime stacks on a lot of extra business around the edges. But speaking of everyone getting teleported to Earth, that brings me to my next scene. This is one I kind of understand getting cut, but it's a nice little character moment. In the manga, once everyone is back on Earth, Piccolo calls Goku insane for staying on Namek. Gohan steps in and makes a bold declaration. His dad will win against Frieza because he's become a Super Saiyan. The next panel shows Vegeta reacting to this, since this is the first time he's actually hearing that Goku achieved the legend. In the anime, none of this happens, likely because Vegeta physically sees Super Saiyan Goku in a filler scene, and a similar scene also happened earlier in the manga. When Gohan is carrying Piccolo away, he declares that his dad is a Super Saiyan. That one did make it into the anime, so I could see why the second one could feel a little redundant. That same chapter also shows the conclusion of the Frieza fight, and it's well known that the anime changed Goku's expression from one of quiet disappointment to a more straightforward angry face. Quick side note, before we jump ahead into the androids and Cell, I want to shout out something that isn't exactly a scene, but it still changes the experience in small ways. Sometimes, Dragon Ball would have covers that actually added small bits to the world. Things like Yajirobe on Earth wondering what's happening on Namek, or quick glimpses of the Z-Fighters training during the 3 years before the androids attack. Many of these are never seen in the anime, so we miss out on cool stuff like Super Saiyan Goku fighting against both Piccolo and Gohan. In the anime, we only ever see him train in base during this time period. Honestly, it's more impressive the covers that do make it in, like Ginyu and Goku's body in Gohan's imagination, or the whole driving episode, both being based on covers. There's other things like Goku's house, which isn't shown in the manga until the tail end of the Frieza arc, so it ends up being changed in the anime to reuse the earlier design made by the staff, where the anime placed it near Grandpa Gohan's house. These aren't exactly unadapted scenes, but they're pieces of the manga's version of the world that the anime overwrites. There are, of course, plenty of other changes and differences. In the manga, Goku completely dominates Android 19, whereas the anime turns that into more of a back and forth. That is, until the heart virus really starts to kick in. And even though this video isn't about censorship, it's impossible to notice how some missing moments are really just toned down versions of the manga, like Dr. Gero killing the driver, which is much more gruesome on the page, where he straight up crushes his neck. Cell's blast on Piccolo's side, and the way Gohan kills the Cell Juniors are shown in much more gory detail. Deaths in general, like Spopovich, Babidi, and the guy who shoots B, have way more blood splatter. The Majins also come off as more dastardly too. Spopovich literally knocks Vidal's teeth out in the manga, and at the site of Babidi's ship, we see mutilated bodies in the original. One of my favorite shots in the whole manga is the moment Vegeta kills Goldo. In the anime, there's a quick flash, and suddenly Goldo's head is on the floor. In the manga, there's no flash. We see Vegeta cleanly guillotine the Frogman. It's brutal and kind of awesome. With that out of the way, let's get back into the Android arc. Now, this one genuinely shocked me. It's one of the most iconic Vegeta moments in the entire manga, and it's just isn't in the anime? In the manga, during the fight against second form Cell, Vegeta uses the Spirit Breaking Cannon, a rush attack that finishes with a clean, brutal kick straight into Cell's stomach, and back down into the ocean, with a beautiful full-page impact panel. It's a pure Vegeta is him moment. That single kick became legendary in Dragon Ball media. It's been recreated in multiple video games, figures, and even Dragon Ball Super Superhero. So it almost feels like a Mandela effect to know that in the anime, that just doesn't happen. The fight is expanded and rearranged so much that the Spirit Breaking Cannon loses the iconic final kick entirely. Instead, Vegeta kicks Cell downwards and he crashes into the island, not the water. The entire battle's choreography is different and rearranged. Moves that happen at the beginning in the manga are moved to the end in the anime, like the moment Vegeta grabs Cell's arm and throws him across the battlefield. That's supposed to open the fight. If there was ever a manga moment that deserved to be reanimated, it was this kick. During the fight against Gohan, Cell ends up coming off as a lot more desperate in the anime compared to the manga. Once Gohan really starts to overwhelm him, he visibly freaks out. Because the anime focuses so much on him panicking, it skips over a cool bit of internal dialogue from the manga, where Cell thinks to himself that he can't believe how strong Gohan is, and admitting that Gohan is even stronger than him, only to smile and declare that he still won't lose. It's small, but it recontextualizes how Cell responds to the situation. He is impressed and even shaken, but he's still confident, because he knows he'll survive blowing up the earth. He only truly loses it when Gohan stops his Kamehameha and nearly blows his entire body. Some of the biggest differences between the anime and the manga can be found in the Trunks special. The anime greatly expands it, and honestly ends up telling a better story because of it. But due to those changes, some scenes go completely unadapted, like Super Saiyan Trunks training with one-armed future Gohan. The TV special rewrites things, so Trunks only becomes a Super Saiyan after Gohan dies. It also makes future Gohan stronger. He actually puts up a good fight against the two androids. In the manga, we only see him land a kick on 17, with a bit of cut dialogue, where 17 reveals it's been a year since they last fought, and that last time he was only using half his power. Gohan declares that he's been training hard, and that this time the androids will lose. And then we immediately cut to Trunks finding his body. Because Trunks already has Super Saiyan in the manga, the whole fight, if you can even call it that, and its emotional shape feel different. Similar things happen, but the clear statement of power gap and the sight of Super Saiyan Trunks fighting alongside future Gohan are completely omitted from the anime. And sticking with Trunks' future, there's one specific scene that's left out of the anime and changed to make Trunks seem even more heroic. At the very end of the Cell arc, Trunks returns to the future and goes after the androids. In the anime, he gets there just in time to save an old man from 17 shooting him. Chapter 419, Trunks doesn't get there in time, and 17 shoots the man right before the Saiyan gets there. And I do mean he gets there immediately after. So if Trunks had flown a tiny bit faster, maybe he would have survived. Another Trunks scene is cut out from the next chapter, 420, right after he defeats Cell with the Heat Dome attack. The anime cuts to Goku in the present, setting up for the Otherworld tournament. But the manga gives us one more glance at future Trunks, returning to Bulma, who runs to hug him, as the narrator tells us that, at last, true peace has come, and it will remain, as long as Trunks is around. Oh, if only you knew what was to come. The largest section of the manga that just doesn't show up in the anime comes from the Buu arc, specifically from the Great Saiyaman section. Chapters 424 and 425 are nearly entirely gone from the anime, with this superhero adventure being replaced by several episodes of filler. The story is this: when Gohan gets to school as the Great Saiyaman and switches back, he stops by his locker, where his Q buddy tells him about a new hero of justice, the Great Tire Man. He corrects him by saying it's the Great Saiyaman. This scene is changed completely, with different students talking to each other, while Gohan listens in the middle of class. The teacher is also completely different in the manga, as Videl gets a call from the police about two criminals on the mountains of Route 81. In both versions, Gohan follows her after finding out that she's the daughter of Mr. Satan, though in the anime this location is changed to the bus terminal. But as he flies, he realizes he doesn't know where he's going, so he has to wait to sense her key. Here is where things get totally different. While the anime has it be that criminals stole a bus full of old people, the manga goes a completely different direction. Gohan waits to sense Videl's key on a rooftop, as a pair of criminal brothers are being chased by the police, firing RPGs and blowing them up. Videl intercepts them by landing her plane in the middle of the street and telling them that they're coming with her. The smaller brother is terrified, since he knows who she is, while the bigger one tries to fight Videl, only to get kicked in the face. This kick alerts Gohan to where she is, and he rushes to the crime scene. The fight continues while Gohan watches, impressed by just how strong Videl is. But right as the older brother is taken down, the younger one is about to shoot Videl. Gohan lands down, knocking the gun out of his hand and destroying it. The criminal asks who he is, and Gohan responds that he'll find out the next chapter. And so, the next chapter, just as promised, Gohan introduces himself with some action poses.
And Agent of Justice,
who will never let the world be contaminated by evil, the Great Saiyaman. He tells Videl to arrest the guy, but the criminal gets away with a smoke grenade. Gohan flies up to spot him, surprising Videl and chasing the criminal. Videl can't believe that he's flying, realizing that it's not just some mere trick. The Great Saiyaman lands on the passenger seat, knocking out the criminal and bringing him back to Videl. Videl compliments his power and asks him who he is. The hero refuses to say, only for Videl to ask, "So, Gohan, how did you get out of the classroom?" And Gohan, the aloof genius that he is, responds, "Easy, I said I was going to the bathroom," completely revealing his identity to the girl. Videl figured it out from Gohan's voice and the fact that he knew her name. Videl then gives him a ride back to school, where Gohan explains why he hides his identity and denying being the Golden Warrior. This is also where Videl forces Gohan to join in the tournament and teach her to fly. They then go their separate ways back to class, where everyone laughs at Gohan for taking so long in the bathroom. Now that's pretty much the entire so-called Great Saiyaman saga in the manga. In the anime, though bits and pieces do happen, they do so in very different ways. There's 4 episodes of adventures between the Great Saiyaman appearing in front of Videl and her finding out. Plus, neither of these criminals, events, nor even the outfits ever show up in the anime. For example, the anime makes a big deal about Videl and the mystery of who the Great Saiyaman is, and she finds out after a pterodactyl baby is saved by Gohan and its parents, where she ends up confronting him at school after many adventures. Very different approach, and Videl comes off differently because of it. For one, she's smarter in the manga by figuring it out right away. The brothers do, however, show up in the Buu saga intro as a cameo, and years later, part of these 2 chapters were eventually adapted as a flashback in Dragon Ball Super episode 73, which makes things a little weird for continuity. But hey, it's a fun pair of chapters. I understand why they didn't adapt them as is. The Great Saiyaman stuff is prime real estate for some filler, giving the manga time to stay ahead. But it also sadly means that we never get this outfit for Gohan. There are, of course, smaller things here and there, like differences in the training for the tournament. We don't get Gohan's training alone, nor Goten using Vegeta's technique. We do get a shot of Goku meditating atop of a rock formation, but the shot of him opening his eyes with excitement as the day arrives doesn't make the cut. Another of my favorite scenes cut from the anime is when Goten and Trunks are practicing the fusion dance in chapter 480. First, they fuse into fat Gotenks, then skinny Gotenks, but right before they fuse into the correct version of the fusion, Krillin comes in and realizes, what's Toriyama trying to pull? These panels have gotta be photocopies. Indeed, Toriyama reused the fusion pages so he wouldn't have to redraw them every time. Toribot himself tells the editor that he doesn't have to get paid for this page. I guess you couldn't translate this into the anime very well, but it's pretty funny on the page. The following chapter also had a few panels we don't see in the anime, like the survivors listening to the news about Mr. Satan being completely different, and a shot of Cell that we don't see. Now, for chapter 496, it's not so much that it isn't adapted, but that it's adapted in a strange way that completely changes the feeling of the scene. In the manga, Goku and Gohan's hug is quick and sincere, with Goku smiling brightly as his son goes off to save the world. But the anime changes it so Goku doesn't hug Gohan back right away. He waits several seconds, and instead of just hugging him, he does one of those quick pats on the back before pushing him off. It makes Goku seem a little colder. I don't think that was the intention, but that's kind of what it comes across as. I guess I can't be too harsh on the anime, since they did add the great scene where Goku first meets Goten and they have a tearful hug. In chapter 506, we get a very brief form that doesn't show up in the anime, the second version of Piccolo. Normally, we only see Super Buu Piccolo absorbed like this, with the cape and no top, but the manga actually has an alternate version that only shows up in one panel, when Goku and Vegeta rip out Gohan, Goten, and Trunks from within Super Buu, but before they take out Piccolo, we see what Super Buu looks like when he only has Piccolo within him, gaining not only his cape, but his top and pants too. It's kind of weird. The other version of Super Buu Piccolo absorbed technically has Goten and Trunks within him too, so I guess he would look different, but still. The anime ended up going with a normal Piccolo design where he doesn't have Piccolo's clothes, just the cape. But if you look closely, you can actually see that they drew them in and just colored it pink instead. The final scene I want to talk about the anime not adapting is, well, something they couldn't have adapted at all. The Dragon Ball manga was re-released in 2002 as the Kanzenban release, an updated, revised version with a few little changes here and there and new covers. Akira Toriyama also took his time to expand the ending, adding a few more panels to the battle against Kid Buu. More importantly, in this new ending, as Goku leaves with Oob, rather than just speeding away, he stops himself and calls in the flying Nimbus, flopping Oob on top of it. As the cloud zooms out into the distance, Goku can't help but remember how far he's come, picturing Kid Goku riding alongside Oob. The narrator tells us that, for now, this is all that he can show us, but of course, more trouble will come down the line, and the Dragon Balls will be there for our heroes. The final page shows us a now classic shot of the gang all together, leaving us with a final panel of Vegeta saying that he will defeat Kakarot. It's a tiny adjustment, but it turns the ending into a heartfelt retrospective. It feels like Toriyama looking back at his journey with us, not just sending Goku off on the next adventure. Though I do know that last Vegeta panel is pretty controversial. It's also worth mentioning that, although not directly Dragon Ball, the Jacko the Galactic Patrolman manga has never been adapted into the anime. So not only do we miss out on that entire story that is a prequel to Dragon Ball, but also on Toriyama's interpretation of Grandpa Gohan finding Goku, as well as the moments leading up to Goku and Bulma's first meeting. And although most of Dragon Ball Minus was adapted, we don't actually get to see Toriyama's scene of Bardock attacking an alien world and getting told to return to planet Vegeta. And those are just some of the scenes and moments that never made it into the Dragon Ball anime. Is there some important ones you think I should have mentioned? For a lot of us, the anime was Dragon Ball. It's what we grew up with, 5-minute long power-ups and all, but the manga is where Dragon Ball really is. If this series means anything to you, do yourself a favor and read it. Not for the missing scenes or trivia, but because Toriyama on the page hits differently. It's like meeting an old friend again and realizing you still have things to discover. And who knows, in a throwaway panel or unadapted joke, there's probably one more moment waiting that might change how you see a character you've loved all your life. Be sure to Mad Dog attack the subscribe button, and if you're looking for more deep dives into Dragon Ball, check out my videos explaining one fact for every Dragon Ball episode.